Welcome to the awareness series by the Reach Clinic. We are a center for child, adolescent, mental health, and also cater to their families. My name is Rachel Jayaseelan, and I'm a consultant psychologist and educator, also an NLP practitioner working at the Reach Clinic. I'm joined today by Maullika Sharma ma'am. She is a certified EAP professional and a trainer, and she's a regular writer and speaker on emotional well-being and mental health. She brings tremendous experience from her earlier career in the corporate industry, as well as her many years of practice as a clinician, as a psychologist. And we are here today to talk about a significant concern, that is anxiety. Increasingly so, something which is important for us during the lockdown. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today. So we could just
Thank you, Rachel.
begin with just an introduction about what is anxiety.
So anxiety, the very simplistic definition of anxiety that I like to use is that, anxiety is when you are projecting into the future. You're not living in the moment, but you're looking into the future and you're predicting a negative outcome.
Okay.
And because you're predicting a negative outcome, that kind of makes you, the emotions that it generates is that of anxiety.
Okay. And how is this anxiety experienced?
So anxiety is experienced in many ways. There are physical symptoms in the body. You can have sweaty palms, faster heartbeat, the need to gastrointestinal troubles, lack of sleep. Uh, but it can also be experienced in cognitive ways, inability to take decisions, not able to think clearly or overthink things. Uh, not able to complete stuff, just constantly procrastinating. Those are some of the common symptoms of
Exactly.
anxiety.
Ma'am, so when does anxiety become a cause of concern? My understanding is that some amount of anxiety is normal, right? Which kind of pushes us to work, to get off our backs and just move forward with our day-to-day activities that we are maybe apprehensive about. So when does anxiety become a cause of concern?
Yeah, so you're right. Some amount of anxiety is normal, and it also prods us to, put in our effort, do whatever we need to do because we are anxious that the outcome is not going to be okay otherwise. It becomes a cause of concern when it's constant, when it's there all the time. Uh, when a, so when there is a definite trigger which is causing you the anxiety, and the anxiety is related to that trigger and subsides after a short while, then it is, that it's just normal anxiety brought on by the particular event that happened. But when the anxiety comes on without any noticeable trigger and it's sustained over a period of time, it just goes on endlessly for weeks on end, then it is possibly uh, a symptom of what we call anxiety, a set of disorders called anxiety disorders. And there are several of them. There's a generalized anxiety disorder, but there's separation anxiety, there's social anxiety, there's obsessive compulsive disorder. There's several other anxiety related disorders. So uh, it it is a mental health condition which needs attention of a professional and may need uh, counseling and medical pharmaceutical intervention, pharmacological intervention when it is you know a disorder.
Okay.
Otherwise, it is just something that happens off and on because of what's happening in the environment. And if we learn to understand it better, we can deal with
Okay.
it better.
So, ma'am, could you give us some of the examples of maybe faulty thinking that could exacerbate or lead to anxiety?
Yeah. So before we go into that, I'd really like to draw up the connection between what we are thinking and how that affects our emotions and our behaviors, and then maybe draw the parallel to what are the specific faulty thinkings that we look at. So if there is a connection between what we are thinking and how we feel about a particular situation, and therefore how we behave. So let's take an example of if you have a friend coming over for dinner, and of course in the pre-COVID days when people used to visit people, let's say you have a friend coming over for dinner and the friend doesn't come for half an hour, there's half an hour over time. And if you think that, oh my God, that friend may have had an accident, right? You start feeling anxious, you start getting restless, you're worried what's happened. And the way you behave is then, you may be pacing up and down, you may be trying the phone every few seconds, you just your heart starts beating faster, your hands get sweaty and all of that. However, if you say, okay, maybe something came up and maybe they got late. Maybe there was a traffic jam. And if that's the way you think, then you're a little irritated by being stood up for half an hour. You may be a little bit annoyed with the friend, but you just wait. You say a few cuss words under your breath, but you just wait for them, right? So it's not, you don't like it, you're not happy about it, but it's not making you dysfunctional.
Okay.
Right?
So what you gave an example for is how we self-manage and manage the initial anxiety that pops up.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that, like I started off in the beginning and I said anxiety is when you're projecting into the future and you're projecting doom.
Yeah.
Right. In this particular instance, you've just decided that you projected a negative outcome that the friend has had an accident, and that is what makes you anxious. You don't have any data to arrive at that conclusion.
Okay.
Nothing has told you that the friend has had an accident, right? You sort of conclude it in your head and then you get all anxious. So what I'm trying to say is that the way you think determines how you feel and how you respond to a particular situation, right? So if you project that the friend has had an accident, you get really anxious and worried about it. If you just say that something must have come up, then you don't get that worried about it, you just let it go. Right? So anxiety is brought on by several dysfunctional thought patterns that we may have, and they typically fall into a few broad categories that they've been clustered into.
Okay.
And the first one of those is called catastrophizing.
Okay.
Right? So in this, which is this example that I took, the friend doesn't come for half an hour and you predict that a catastrophe has happened, the person's had an accident and God knows what's happened. So we have to watch our thoughts and keep them in check. We have no basis for the catastrophizing. We have no basis to jump to the conclusion that something so drastic has happened. Right? It is just our thoughts going wild. If we don't predict a catastrophe, then we don't get that anxious. Right? So if we are talking in terms of, let's say, parents are very anxious about their children. Right? And anxiety, I think the day you become a parent, anxiety is a given. Right? That's part of being a parent, is being anxious. But you get anxious. Why do you get anxious? You get anxious because you think that there will be negative outcomes for your child.
Sure.
You get anxious about a child. The parent gets anxious about the child's exam because they predicted that the child will not do well in the exam. And therefore the child will not do well in life.
Okay.
And that's where that anxiety is stemming from, right? My child didn't get the perfect marks. And keep extrapolating that further, you then say, okay, that means my child will be a failure. So that is what I call catastrophizing.
Okay.
If you just stay in the moment and say, okay, it was one exam. What's one exam in a lifetime? Well, one exam he didn't do as well as he should have, and that's fine. Then I don't get anxious. I mean, I may not have liked the marks, but that's okay. I can move beyond that. But when I predict that those marks are going to be a determinant of his future success and that is a disaster,
okay,
then I get anxious about it.
All right.
Right? So the other set of thoughts that makes you anxious is what falls into the category of awfulizing, right?
Okay.
That something has happened and you have, something inconvenient has happened, something you don't like or something that's not your preferred choice, but we decide and we say that it is awful.
Okay.
Right? For instance, maybe I've lost my job.
All right.
Right? It's not inconvenient. I mean, it's not convenient. It throws up a lot of variables for me. It's not my preferred choice, but it doesn't have to be declared as the most awful thing that could have happened.
Okay.
Right? When I start falling into this mood of, oh my God, that's really awful, and how am I going to deal with this? And this should not have happened to me. And why does everything awful happen to me? Then I get out of this mode of being able to bounce back, get out of this mode of being able to do something about it. Right? What awfulizing does is makes me a victim. It shouldn't have happened to me. This is the worst thing that can happen. It's like, if for some reason you have to miss a meal, it may not be the most convenient thing, but it's not a disaster. Right? But I mean, I can make it out to be this, oh my God, I missed a meal and that was the really awful thing to happen. And another one is this thing about fortune telling and predicting doom. So, we don't have any basis for fortune telling, but we decide that what's going to happen in the future is negative, and therefore we get really anxious. And the last one that, amongst the common ones is really this belief that whatever we do needs to be perfect. And therefore, if it's not perfect, I get all stressed and anxious about it. The reality is that things don't need to be perfect. Even 90%, even 95% is very often good enough. And the amount of stress caused by our need for it to be 100% versus letting go at 95% is exponential.
Okay.
So those are some of the things that we think that, okay, if I don't get it right perfectly, then it's a waste. So it's either good or bad.
Yeah.
The reality is a lot of things are gray. There'll be elements of good and elements of bad in everything. And are we able to kind of then look at it in its totality?
Okay. Ma'am, is anxiety experienced different in children as compared to adults?
I think some of it is yes, because children are not able to express it as much. So they may have symptoms, but they may not understand that it is anxiety. They may not be able to call it that. They may not be able to vocalize that or verbalize that and explain that this is what they are experiencing. So it's very often left to the parents to, pick up some of the symptoms and identify them. It could be things like sleeplessness, nightmares, loss of appetite, bedwetting, separation anxiety, anger, irritability, mood swings. All of those could be signs of anxiety, which they may not be able to express. They may not have the language even to express it.
Is what about, say, something like exam anxiety or performance anxiety? What would be some of the signs that we would see in children?
Yeah, so exam anxiety and performance anxiety is a big one. for the children, because as a society we put a lot of expectation on them and a belief that their worth is equivalent to their exam marks.
Okay.
So if they don't do well in the exams, they're not worthy. They're not. Don't allow other dimensions of their life to develop and flourish. So a lot of children kind of grow up believing that for them to be worthy or for them to be loved they need to get those good marks in the exam. So that puts a lot of pressure on them, and they get anxious because if they don't do well in the exam, then that's because of what we have messages that we have given them. They have this belief that if they don't do well in this exam, then they are nothing.
So that
Nobody's going to love them.
is learned, ma'am.
Sorry.
That faulty thinking is then learned, is what you're saying?
Yes, it's learned because that's what we as a society are surrounding them with all the time, right? So more than learned, I think it's just imbibed from the environment.
Okay. Ma'am, so given the current scenario that a lot of individuals are experiencing during the lockdown phase, what could be some of the triggers that are causing anxiety?
See, in the current environment is actually, it's an environment like nothing ever before, where each one of us is surrounded with this anxiety. What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my loved ones? Am I or my loved ones, or which loved one is going to come out onto the other side of this crisis, right? Am I going to have my job? Am I going to be able to survive? What's going to happen to my children? What's going to happen to their career? What's their world going to look like? It's so many things.
Okay.
And if you start going down, and nobody really has any answers right now. How long is this going to go? We have no idea. Our parents are in different cities. We may just lose them without even being able to go and see them.
Okay.
So there are so many anxieties right now. So if it's very normal to feel, given the current environment, it's very normal to feel some amount of anxiety. I think we have to consciously, to retain our own sanity, consciously try and stay in the moment, look for the good around us, connect with ourselves, connect with our values, connect with what's important to us. And while this may be a time of physical distancing, it does not need to be emotional distancing or social distancing. So focusing on keeping your connections going, finding meaning, doing something creative, doing something that gives you a sense of satisfaction. So those the typical things that taking care of your diet, taking care of your exercise, making sure you have a proper a routine to your day.
Okay.
Making having a proper sleep routine. So the typical things that you help take care of your emotional health, we need to focus on them more, because a vital element of our existence, which is our connection with people, is right now getting challenged.
Okay. Ma'am, so you are emphasizing on some of the factors in an individual's life that he or she can have better control over.
Yes.
That's within their control. And that could lead
Yes.
to better management of their anxiety.
Yes. So, it's very, in the current environment where everything is out of our control,
Yeah.
right? There's so much going on, and we really don't have a way of influencing them. It's important for us to be able to focus on what is it that I can control. And that is, making sure that I'm taking care of myself, keeping my thoughts in check, making sure that, like I said, my exercise, my diet, my sleep, my routine, my keeping in touch with people, my doing something that gives me sense of satisfaction, my understanding of the current situation, my not catastrophizing and awfulizing and predicting doom for all times to come,
Okay.
and recognizing that life always has ups and downs. Nobody has really said that it is only meant to be an uninterrupted upward ride. It's never going to be. So the more I'm able to ride the ups and downs, the easier it will be for me as a person.
Okay. Ma'am, so when would you say that a person seeks for help? When should a person seek help? At what point would they come to an understanding that, okay, I need to get some help about this anxiety that I'm going through?
So I think when the anxiety is making them dysfunctional,
Mm-hmm.
when they're not able to sleep, when they're not able to, really concentrate on anything, when they're having physical symptoms, headaches, gastrointestinal troubles, racing heart, sweaty palms, and it's happening for a long extended period of time, they're not able to focus. Basically, they're not able to function, or they find a decline in their normal functioning level. It is a good idea to get some help. Uh, Unfortunately, a lot of us believe that we should be able to deal with all our problems on our own, and I should be able to handle everything by myself.
Okay.
And that often stops people from seeking help. The reality is that all of us need some help at some point of time, and it is probably the most difficult thing to do to ask for help.
Yes.
And therefore, when you are asking for help, it's not a sign of your weakness. It's a sign of tremendous strength and courage and confidence to be able to say, this is my limit, I can't deal with this, I need some help. So I really would like to leave this message that if you need the help, if you ask for help, there will be enough help available to you. And please don't have the feeling that because I'm asking for help, I'm not good enough, or I'm somehow weak, or not as good as I should be. Help again can be of two types. Sometimes if the anxiety is really severe and it's making you very dysfunctional, you might need the help of a psychiatrist to get some medication. Or if it's you would in any case need the help of a counselor or a therapist to sort through your thought patterns and develop more positive and more helpful ways of thinking, which would help you tide over the anxiety.
Ma'am, thank you so much for this very insightful session that you gave all of us about what causes anxiety and how it is experienced, and also an awareness about when we have to seek help, and that it's not a sign of weakness, but rather a strength to be able to go through that entire process of even managing our anxiety. And you left us with some wonderful self-care tips as well, right? To engage in activities that are more positive, and to surround yourself with effective support system, and so on. So thank you so much for that. And thank you all our viewers for watching this, and please do follow the Reach Clinic channel for more videos, and you can reach out to us at the numbers provided. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. Bye.